Today on the Pray for Nathan show, we will be discussing tips, tricks, and advice for hiking in southwestern Ontario in the winter. First, let's discuss clothing.
Make sure you're wearing layers. I got a wool shirt on, a flannel, and my coat, gloves, the buff, and my toque. And I also am regulating my temperature. It is not good to be too warm. If you start sweating, that can become an issue, especially after a long time out here. It's not bad being a little bit cold, a little bit of chill is not a bad thing, but being too hot, that is a bad thing.
As moisture freezes.
So as you go, just regulate your temperature as best as you can. It is hard because I'm wearing a backpack, and that usually involves a sweaty back. I also recommend wearing face coverage such as this. Protects you from the sun and the wind, provides a little bit of warmth, especially a scarf. Like right now it's only -2 out, so this is doing me just fine for warmth. If I get a scarf, I also usually recommend sunglasses, but today's an overcast day, so I didn't think that was too important. I don't like the fogging when I'm wearing a booth, so just protect your face from wind and sun. That is what destroys your face and makes you look older. This is how this beautiful face here still gets ID'd when buying non-alcoholic beer.
Another thing I warn you about is there's gonna be gunshots. And you're gonna be scared.
I'd say 1 out of every 7, 10 of my trips out here in southern Ontario, there are gunshots near me.
Or in this case, just someone using an axe that sounds like a gunshot until you watch the video later.
Another key point is to take breaks. Rest your knees. They get sore after a while. I usually take breaks about once every hour or so, every 3 to 5K. Usually with a snack, a little bit of water, and do it for about 2 to 5 minutes.
Also, remember to pack out your garbage.
So now, let's talk about what I bring. What are the key essential items I bring on a hike here? One thing I highly recommend is the waterproof shoes. You don't want to be getting cold feet. You also got to be careful that you're not stepping on ice that's too thick, and I'll give you a tip on that in a moment. Always recommend wool socks. They help regulate your temperature better. They deal better with wicking of water and moisture. As well, my bonus feature is you can usually wear them more than one day because they don't smell bad. I usually wear jeans, and depending on the conditions, I like to wear a rain pant over top. Really recommend just a rain liner. Breaks down the wind, makes it so I can sit anywhere or go anywhere. I don't have to worry about a mess. Really do love my rain liner.
Different thicknesses. And snow pants.
Water, always key. Snacks. Especially with the winter and depending on the temperatures, I like to bring crampons. These are just little crampons that would help get me out of a situation if I got stuck in it or the trail started to get a little bad. They're not the greatest crampons, they're from the dollar store. I'll show you my other crampons. And those ones work really well no matter what the ice conditions are, but the problem is you only want to use them on ice. I like to bring a small trowel like this. This is for in case you have to go to the bathroom, especially if that tea kicks in while, I like to bring a tea usually. Tea kicks in while you're out here, you want to have this. Now I recommend getting a metal one, not getting one of the plastic ones that they sell at Mecca or Sale at most of the camp stores, because especially you're in southwestern Ontario, there is a lot of clay soil, a lot of hard to dig soil. And I've broken my plastic shovel in the Niagara region because that is some hard clay. And you want to dig a hole about the length of the trowel if you can, at least like up to there. Do your business, shove it in, and pat it back in and try to make it look like there's no evidence of you even going there. toilet paper, mustard, but that can't be any good. And I like to have a means of communicating in case I get lost or in trouble, such as a cell phone or a satellite messaging device. They are also good for the GPS functions in both of those to help you figure out where you are when you got lost. I like using Runkeeper personally. It helps me track where I've gone, distances and everything else, as well as it helps me find my way back if there's any reason I got lost or anything else. I can at least see on this where the car was and where I need to go. I also highly recommend walking sticks or hiking sticks. I didn't bring them on this time because I'm familiar with the terrain and didn't think I needed them, but especially on a new trail or so. If you're not sure where you're going, I highly recommend them, especially in the winter, especially in southwestern Ontario where the temperatures are you're usually hovering around 0, so you could run into some really thick mud. If you could end up sliding down somewhere and need to get back up. They also help with your balance, especially on the icy sections. Anyways, highly recommend them.
I really should be taking an emergency blanket with me as well.
I also urge you to get the trail maps, such as we have the Grand Valley Trail, the Avon Trail, the Thames Valley Trail, and the Bruce Trail out around here. Highly recommend you buy those. It helps you find these locations. I've spent hours on OpenStreetMap, Google, you name it, trying to find more trails and these trails. Couldn't find them. Bought the maps. Now I can find them. I can find out where to park, find out all the useful information I need. Highly recommend it. It also is like your ticket to go on these trails, because you want us to help support them. They help provide the maintenance for these trails, everything else, the markings such as this white blaze coming up here, the negotiating with landowners to maintain and keep these trails so you're not just walking on the road like the majority of the Bruce. I also strongly urge you to follow the rules. Don't do things that aren't allowed on the trail, such as if the trail says no biking, don't bring your bike on it. If it says no camping, don't camp on it. No fires as well. Follow the rules, because a lot of trails are getting closed, such as, look at the Bruce Trail. A lot of trails have gotten closed due to people partying and camping out there. And then you end up just walking on the road and it ruins the trail experience. These private landowners are letting us go through their properties and treat them with the utmost respect. It's a pure joy and act of humanity that they let us go on their trails and walk on them and enjoy the nature that they have purchased. It's just, otherwise us city dwellers like me, we don't get to see this stuff. Having access to the guidebook also helps you find trails where you're going where not a lot of people have been. We're right now smack dab in the middle of a pandemic with a lockdown, and everyone is hitting the nature trails. They're just so overpopulated. But here, looks like I'm one of the only people, maybe I'd say maybe about evidence of about 10 people have been walking this trail in the last 3 weeks. That's incredible. You also want to tell someone where you're going. Make sure you leave your information with someone else, a loved one or your mother, to just let them know where you're going for your hike and everything else, just in case. Let them know where you're parking the car. A lot of these trails have had vehicles or ATVs go through, and they leave deep impressions in them that in the winter are full of water and have ice on top, but sometimes like this can be covered in snow. So it's good to test it, but that is not secure enough to hold us, especially at this temperature of about -2. And see this little divot here? Doesn't seem that bad, but you got ice and water underneath there, and depending on how deep it is, you don't overly know. So it's best to avoid it. And I prefer hiking in the cold in the winter in southwestern Ontario for several reasons. First, you're wearing more clothes. This helps prevent you from getting hit with all the bushes, the prickly things, the thistles and everything else. It involves a lot less scrapes and bruises. The other great benefit is you don't have to worry much about things like poison ivy, ticks, mosquitoes, and you want to go when it's cold, when the ground is nice and hard. A lot of the times you're walking along and you want the ground to be hard, because some of the times you're going to be walking a farm field just on the edge of the trail. And you want to avoid being here when it's a slippery, wet mess. So go when it's cold. Already it's cold and I'm still getting mud. And when you get back to the car and you've done your hike, there's one last thing I highly recommend doing, is doing whatever you can to stretch.
Stretching out the hamstrings, getting the quads, doing the calves there.
And most of all, have fun when you're out there. Enjoy yourselves, watch for nature, look for signs of different trees, different wildlife footprints, different scat. Just enjoy whatever you can. Take in your surroundings. Be mindful of your surroundings. And thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the outdoors. And one last safety tip. If you are freezing cold when you get back to the car, do not just crank the heat and go driving. Your blood flow that has been restricted from the outer extremities into your major organs might retract, dropping your blood pressure and might cause you to pass out or not be totally with it. So warm up gradually.